Hey,
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. So, thank you so much for speaking with us today at Urb Nation about your new horror film, which is coming out soon. It Lives Inside.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, it's amazing to kind of speak with you and learn more about your experience working on the film and getting to do this kind of new genre. So, jumping right in, what was that like for you? Had you done something with horror before?
No, this was my first go at horror, but I have been a huge horror fan since I was a kid, and being in a horror movie has definitely been on my bucket list for as long as I can remember. So this was very cool to be a part of and to bring this to life. I was super stoked.
Yeah, so what was it, like to be a part of a film where there are a lot of special effects and VFX that gets put into the final cut? What was that like to kind of film for it? Was it different than other work you had done before?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'd never done anything like this before. So it was just as much of a learning experience as it was just a traditional set experience, and a challenge at that, right? Like having to figure out how to scream and like figuring out how to act scared when the creature's not in front of you, and like it felt, I felt like I lived through acting in many genres in one, if that makes sense. I got to kind of go through all the entire spectrum. I got to go through drama, through action, through horror. And as an actor, that's super fulfilling and gratifying for sure.
So kind of speaking on that sense, what was your favorite scene to film throughout the movie?
Ooh, I have a few, but I think the overall climax of the movie and those moments where Sam, or Samita, should I say, really gets to be an action hero, that was really fun. Just because for the majority of the movie, Sam is just going through it. So it was nice to be able to like delve into action and get to, live out my action dreams.
So did you do all of your own stunts? What was that like, that
I
preparation?
wish, I wish, but I did do some of them, like the bike riding. That was all me. Okay, that was
Okay.
all me. um, but yeah, but I mean, I got to learn what a cowboy switch was, which was really cool. Where my stunt double like pummeled down these stairs, and then I had to like roll in and pretend like it was me. And so it was like a very cool experience. And now I know this new terminology that I otherwise didn't know about.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was just about to ask you to explain it when you explained what a cowboy switch was. That's pretty cool. How does that process work?
I mean, you just, we had a stunt coordinator, Mike, and it was literally my stunt coordinator. She was incredible. We also have the same last name, so shout out to her. We're not related, but she was incredible and so just down for anything. But essentially, like, yeah, we have our incredible stunt doubles pummeling down these stairs because as the actor, they just won't allow me to do it. I would have done it if they needed me to, but I'm glad that they didn't. And then as soon as she pummels down, like I'm hiding in a corner basically. And as soon as she hits the floor, I roll out in front of camera. So it's a cowboy switch. I probably didn't do a good job of explaining that, but it's really cool.
No, that looks really cool and just kind of seeing it play out on camera, you can't even really tell that there's, a stunt double in place for you. So that's a really cool way of filming and a cool technique that you just shared with us.
Yeah, job well done then.
So kind of, talking about your roles in general, you have played a few, high school characters that are scened, I guess, in high school. You in your 20s, do you bring a different perspective to those characters, kind of having been through high school yourself?
I think so. I think so. But in a way, it's funny. I feel like I'm able to also relive some of my high school experiences and or just have high school experiences that I didn't get to have, for whatever reason that may have been. So it's both exciting, but I do. And I mean, I also think it's part of the challenge, right? It's like, how do I take out my reasoning and my logical reasoning and all the knowledge I've gained and all the wisdom I've acquired in my 20s, and how do I revert and go back to the innocence and the sort of naivete of a high school teenager. So it's both a challenge, but and also in a lot of ways my experience in life helps me navigate the work, if that makes sense.
No, definitely. And that kind of leads me directly into my next question, where you have a lot of these scenes that are a lot of pent up emotion, right? Very close up directed scenes. And I'd asked the director, Bishal, about this from a director's point of view, but I would love to hear from you as an actor. How do you kind of pick up those emotions when those objects in a horror film might not be right in front of you? That scene might be different than the way you're actually filming. How do you grasp those emotions?
Yeah, so I have to just sort of credit this a lot to the writing of the script. I do think that good writing can make or destroy a script, and I think that in this case, Bishul has been so incredibly detailed and so extensive about his process and about what he was hoping for, certainly through our conversations, that even when I didn't have anything that I was acting opposite of, I knew very well the emotions that we wanted to elicit because we had talked about it so extensively. As far as like the process of getting there, well, I think it's such a douchey actory answer, but it's just like, you're living, acting is living under imaginary circumstances. So you try your best to just imagine yourself really in that circumstance. And certainly when you're surrounded by the lighting and the costume and the overall ambiance of the set, I think that all of those elements help you get into it and engage yourself a bit more than you're doing if it was like an audition where you're doing it over Zoom, which I did have to do. That was a lot more tricky. But when you're actually on the set, then it's a completely different ballgame, and it's a little bit easier to imagine for sure.
So some actors have kind of said that they come into these emotional scenes super prepared and like crying from a playlist beforehand. Have you had to do that before, or do you kind of feel like the writing gets you where you need to be?
That's a great question. I'm so glad you asked that. So I have definitely in my past done that. I feel like as I've been able to work on my emotional toolkit more, I'm able to kind of jump into some of these emotions a lot more with more ease than I probably used to be able to. But I do think that a lot of it is, it's the stakes of it that really did it for me, and really the writing. I know that Mohana Krishnan, who plays our lovely Tamira in this movie, I mean, I think in her circumstance it's a little bit different. She's literally going through it the entire movie. So often, like the majority of her time being on set was her with her earphones in, just listening to music and getting in the zone. But I also have to credit a lot to the actors that I get to work across. I mean, when you have really brilliant actors like that, it makes believing the entire circumstance that much easier because they're giving you all that they have. And so I have an incredible cast that definitely helped me get to those places that I needed to get to.
That's amazing. So kind of my last question for you, after It Lives Inside, what's next for you? Are you kind of thinking of staying in the more horror action genre, or do you think you want to branch out to something else?
Definitely. Well, I hope that these strikes end soon and that we're able to get a fair deal because that would be great. I know we're all very eager to get back to work.
Mhm.
But to answer your question, yeah, I would. I hope that this isn't the end of my horror journey. I feel like I've just got a taste of it and I'm like ready for more. I love horror. But I'll take, I'll go wherever the good work is. I feel like I'm now in a position where I can, I don't have to say, I have a little bit of say in what I want to do. And I'm really just more interested in working with brilliant directors and brilliant creative teams and brilliant casts and interesting, gripping characters. So I hope that we just see more of those.
Yeah, and I hope so too. And hopefully you're able to dabble in all the genres that you want to be able to work in.
Thank you so much. I hope so too.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with us today. And, I can't wait for the audiences to see It Lives Inside. Your performance is amazing throughout the film. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's so nice of you to say.